A lot of people will say that farmers are the biggest gamblers in the world, and I agree with that. We put thousands and thousands of dollars into our crops, just starting with planting. And then after that, once, hopefully, if the crop will grow, then we go out with a sprayer and we spray for weeds. If we're doing irrigation, we have to pay for water as well. Also, not just water, but paying for labor to go out and move the wheel lines. And that whole crop, through that whole year, it can be destroyed in 10 minutes with a hailstorm. I mean, that's all that it'll take. What my dad calls it, he calls it the white combine will come through. Usually that doesn't happen, but it has happened. And there's been years, a couple of years ago, I think it was 2021, it was a super dry year, and we planted some wheat that we didn't even harvest just because there wasn't anything out there.
When I moved to this area, it was different than where I grew up. I grew up on the Snake River Plain, which you irrigate everything. But when I moved here, and all of a sudden we had all this dry farm, I realized that, oh my goodness, if you don't get a rain at the right time, it's not gonna do as well.
People get hung up on the total amount of rainfall you receive in a year. The thing that's most important is the timing of the rains, in my opinion. If you have good rains in the fall, it'll bring it, and then you have good rains in May and June, you have a phenomenal year, and you may only get 12 inches that year. Whereas you could have a year that's really high as far as a yearly total that may not make for good crops, but it comes at the wrong time.
With irrigation, you water it whenever you want to, whenever you need it. With dry farm, you just put out the seed and pray that hopefully maybe it'll grow a crop someday. I'd say 75% of our acres is dry farm. So rain is super important for us.
You know, it's a little bit like raising your kids. You do your very best to give them the best start you can, and you nurture them, you try and teach them life skills, and then they get to do a lot of life on their own. And the crops are a little bit the same way. You go in, you plant them, you give them the very best environment you can, you feed them the fertilizer, you try and get the weeds out of life, and you do the best you can, and then ultimately that person, that plant, has to rise to its potential or not. Most of the time it grows quite well, but you do have to be able to step back and say, okay, it's on you now. Giving you every opportunity to be the best you can, grow.
Alfalfa is probably the most, as far as headaches go, I guess, because you're over the field so many times. You know, it's 3 different crops, and you have 3 operations. You have to swath it, you have to rake it, you have to bale it, and then you have to haul it. And hay is also difficult because it can be too dry, it can be too wet within a day, and then often you're out in the middle of the night when dews come in and different things, and so that fouls with sleep schedules, and then like you say, it'll rain or rain just a little bit, or the wind will blow, and there's a lot of pieces that have to kind of fall together to get it to work.
Perfect. During the harvest season, the hours that we work varies intensively. Not very many people on the farm, you know, it's a pretty busy time and there's not much sleep and there's a lot of work, you're up a lot. You know, ever since I could open my eyes, I mean, I rode the corn chopper with my dad. I went to work with my dad every day. I've always enjoyed coming out to the farm when I was young. And when I really actually started working on the farm, I was probably around 12 or 13.
There is nothing better in the world than to be sitting in an air-conditioned combine cab with the combine running well, so you're in the good end of the combine, not in the bad end of the combine, which is the back end. But if the combine's running well, there's nothing better than cutting good wheat. It's really, really fun to watch that come in and have it pour into the bin. Very, very gratifying. On the flip side, when things don't go well, there's nothing worse than cutting poor wheat. If you got a poor crop there and it just has to be done, and you have to mow the lawn and clean things up, it's no fun at all.
So my dad, he works a full-time job, and he helps out with the farm the most during harvest. Just try to keep the farm rolling. Also, just with a lot of repairs on the farm. He knows combines really well, how they run. He also has his own custom harvesting business.
So I'm Kyle Christensen. I'm Braden Christensen's dad, Clendon's younger brother. Yeah, when you've gone to all the effort of prep and the planting and irrigating, everything else, and then pull in the combine and yields better than even what you'd expected or hoped for. It's very satisfying. And you know, with the work that I still do full time, when I do get onto a combine at times, it's nice to be able just to unwind and to be able to just kind of clear your mind, and it's always fun to see the crops rolling in.
In order to be successful doing it, you kind of have to have other things take a back seat. You have to pass up on me. We go into every family event and whatever, you know. Joy's been good, and we try not to schedule too much in August. August is harvest time, you know, it's like a religious holiday almost for the whole month. When everything comes together and you can go through and the combine's running good crop through there and it's pouring into the bin, that's a good day.
I think it's just really important to remember that it is a legacy, and the point of all of our existence, I think, is to become. What are you going to become? What are you leaving behind? What kind of character are we building? It really is who we are becoming as a family, who I'm becoming as not only a mother, but a farmer's wife, who my husband and I become together as a couple. How are we changing and building character that will improve where we live, those we're around? And that really is the most important thing. What are you going to become?
If it weren't for my great-grandpa Joe and my grandpa Verl and Clendon and my dad, I don't know what I'd do. I mean, like, this is what I love to do. I love farming. Just part of us, like, we have to farm.
You know, when there's a job that needs to be done, we need to stick with it, need to do it. I know that goes back just because that's what we've been taught, and that's the life that we've lived. And with the companies that I'm involved with now, I mean, employees is such a big part of it. Finding good, hardworking people is such a challenge. That is such a blessing to have that legacy growing up on a farm.
Life comes in seasons, you know. I think that's one thing that I've learned being a farmer is everything comes at a trade-off. And so that's something that has, you know, that I think can be applied to life in general. You take advantage of the opportunities where you're at and be looking to the future.
To be frank, there's times when it doesn't work out. We just planted some seeds this fall that a little bit of rain came and it brought some seeds, but not all the seeds. So I'll have to probably replant that, which is hard. And I'm a religious person. I pray. I believe in God. I believe He's watchful, but it doesn't mean that He's not going to let me fail sometimes. It doesn't mean that the crop is always going to be wonderful or that we're all going to be one big happy family all the time. Faith just means that I still keep believing that it can turn out, even when it doesn't. I think farmers are some of the most faithful people in the world because they try again.
I look at the hard work and the sacrifices that Joe made as far as, you know, a lot of this was tough work. I look at the machinery that they ran compared to what we're running now. I mean, and he was running the latest and greatest at that time. You know, some of those tractors, they were running almost 24 hours a day, getting everything tilled. They didn't have that good of lights, so sometimes they'd even have to run with flashlights. And they had shields built up on the old tractors that it would direct the heat that would come back, and you know, that was their heater. So I just look at the legacy of all the hard work and the sweat and the tears that they did, and it's treated us well, and hopefully we can continue that.
I didn't even know how to drive a standard transmission.
That was an experience trying to teach her in the parking lot down in Logan how to drive my car.
Yes, and
Kinda
to
scared me.
bring it home. Anyway, I did get it up here safe, but yes, I've learned a lot, and then we did have a large family. That's where I feel a lot of accomplishment, because they're good people and feel like we've contributed to the world.
The thing I like most about agriculture is it keeps us grounded to what it takes to exist as humans, you know, because we can get along with a lot of different things that we enjoy, but we can't get along without food. But being tied to agriculture, well, it's helped me to see a vision of what it takes to feed people, and we're only one piece in that puzzle. It's a big puzzle. The importance of energy, the importance of good roads and transportation, it keeps you grounded in what it really takes to bring things to the grocery store. It's not magic. It's a lot of different steps. And the general populace loses sight of that easily because they're not involved. They don't see the pieces of it. And I don't see all of the pieces, but yeah, I'm interested. I've got a son that's going to be a high school teacher. I've got a son that's going to be a nurse. Got one that works in construction, then one that's involved in agriculture, and then, you know, who knows for sure just what Tage will end up doing. But as they go out into the world, hopefully they don't lose that grounding and that tie to what really makes the world go round and makes humanity possible and moves things forward.
It's an undescribable feeling, starting from planting, when you spend all the hours of putting the seed into the ground, spraying it, maintaining the crop, looking at what it needs, and also just praying that it'll rain so then it does grow, to harvest is just, it's an undescribable feeling. It's just such a big accomplishment. And then also knowing like what the purpose it is, it's to, you know, feed the whole world. I don't think I could be any prouder than to, you know, help feed the world.